It's about learning to live with your day-to-day life, but also to be in awareness. Hello, I'm Holly McNeill, and welcome to another episode of Pay Attention. Thank you so much for being here. And I know that when you are listening to this and when I'm recording this is different times, but I want to tell you, it's good to be here. I have been going to some conferences over the last 3 or 4 months for college students, really wanting to talk to the younger generation about paying attention to where they're making their choices from the chaos of their head or the clarity of an open heart. Well, I'm heading towards 60, and it's a lot to go to conferences, so I'm glad to be back here. And today I have an amazing speaker who was one of the first. She has her own podcast, and one of the first podcasts that I was ever on. But what blows me away about her is that she's so young and vibrant, and she started to understand how much more there is to living than just this human experience at a very young age. So welcome, Cheyenne Moore. Cheyenne, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Holly. I'm so excited to be here on your show.
Yes, you are a sight for sore eyes. It's not sore eyes, tired eyes. But yeah, I loved, like I said, one of my first podcasts was a safe space with Cheyenne. And here we are. Life comes full circle. So what I love about this lovely lady is how she found clarity pretty early on in her life about kind of what's going on in this world and how we're creating it. So Cheyenne, can you share your story about how you got started on your journey, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, I would love to. I know we don't have 2 to 3 hours, so I'm like, Cheyenne, bullet points. I truly believe that spirit, universe, God, the divine, whatever you'd like to call, taps us on the shoulder over and over in our lives. And they're like your show, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And I have a timeline in my mind for like memory's sake and the writer mind in me. And like half of it, like for, I would say like 27, 28 years is like black and white. It doesn't mean that there's not a lot of really good memories, a lot of good experiences that I had. But then there's an awakening point where like the color spectrum just blew open for me.
Yeah, the lights came on, the veil lifted. Tell us about it.
Exactly. So mine is very trippy. I think everybody has a really cool awakening story. Mine, I don't know if I'm just like way too into the details about it, but it was about 2 weeks before my wedding. I'm coming up on, I think, 6 years of it. Like I'm getting ready to celebrate 6 years of my wedding and then 6 years of my awakening. So they were really happening super close.
Easy to remember.
Definitely. And I like celebrating both, but my awakening, I will always love to celebrate like more than anything in my life, because it really was like a revival and a resurrection of myself. But
Beautiful.
Most of those things were like religious terms that I was growing up with. So I try to like take the etymology of that back really bad for the awakening of the self. So to get into the most simple details I possibly can, for anybody that's never had a Kundalini awakening, it feels like somebody dosed you with shrooms and forgot to tell you. It's absolute bliss. It really is. The problem is you don't have a frame of reference for it. So I luckily had an experience around the age of like 19 and 20, and it was a very profound experience that I only wrote about in notebooks. Like after just this time in my life, I remember energy coming up my spine and just being like, what is this? Like I was growing up in like the cornfields of Illinois at this time. Energy up your spine isn't something we're going to learn in any church or anything at all. But something like expansive in my body was really happening at that time. I wrote it all down in a notebook and kind of just continued on with life. And about 2 weeks before my wedding, I was not feeling like a bride should feel. And it wasn't necessarily my husband and, oh, should I not get married? Do I have cold feet? Like everything in me that I felt like I had tried to forget and run away from was like bubbling up in me uncontrollably. Like the Mentos went into the Coke bottle, you know, and it was like, ooh, like this thing just exploded in me. And I remember my like point of surrender is like I came home from a beautiful restorative yoga class. I was in the middle of like rebuilding my muscles with this lovely practitioner named Sally. And she was very slow. She was very patient with me. And I went home and I was like, why is my heart broken? Like, why am I grieving? Why am I having all of these, like, almost like PTSD visions coming up in my mind is kind of how it felt. All of this trauma, these things that I had truly never processed were coming up in me. But it was painful until I just surrendered. And I went home and I got on my mat and I got down on my knees and I prayed. I've had a relationship with the actual Jesus Christ, not the Christian one, not to get them confused, because that's a whole other thing that we have to get into. Yeah, but the man, Jesus Christ, I've talked to since I was a kid. He's like my invisible, translucent best friend. So I was like, God, Jesus, the highest power, the most high, you really got to come in and help me out. Like, what is going on in my body? Like, I give myself over to you. I surrender to this moment. Just please, like, take this broken heart away from me. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I, like, did this whole, like, surrender pose and surrender moment, it was definitely a mix of talking to God and then, like, yogic philosophy that I'm very in love with. Mm-hmm. And then, like, my heart, I later found out it was a heart chakra expansion experience, just, like, energetically exploded in my chest, and I can still like see it in my eyes. Like I was crying and I was just like, you know, surrendering. Like all of this built up energy just flew out of my chest, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I get it. Like I'm alive. I'm alive. I haven't been living. Like and it just became like a really fast download. But then of course I obviously like had to tell my husband what was happening, because if you study anything about Kundalini awakening or like any awakening in general, you can literally activate like all 5 clair senses. Like your third eye can burst open, your chest can burst open, your throat chakra can burst open. And these are all things that, I had a really hard time believing, even though I was experiencing it. Like I was like, I need tangible evidence that this is. And a couple days before that, have you ever heard of BioWell? I think we might have talked about this before, but BioWell technology, it scans the subtle energies in your body.
No, I haven't. We might have talked about it.
Okay, well, you and anybody that watches this, you really need to go get a BioWell meeting, like measurement, because this woman not only did a full like 20, 40, 57-page printout of everything about my life from a scientific format, but your chakras are printed out on a piece of paper, and it shows an introvert and extrovert line. And my heart chakra, she said, was shoved so far back in my chest that my spine would split it. And she said, but I don't usually feel like that. So like, what's going on in your heart space? What are you hanging on to? What do you need to let go of? So I went and I let go of what was on my heart space, or at least I tried to. And my heart ended up just exploding open. And then I had to like explain that to my husband, or my fiance at the time. I was like, do you still want to get married? It's okay, I would leave me too. You know? Like,
well, let's talk about that. Let's back up the truck a little bit. This type of awakening is really kind of what we're here to do, right? And it's different for everyone. I've had people on the podcast. You know, I had Vince, Gangster Vince, I call him now Saint Vince, who, you know, overdosed and thought there had to be better. And people like you who have these moments, right? There's just chakra opening. And for me, it was more of a step-by-step, methodical, had a question, here's the answer, I have a question, here's the answer, I have a question, here's the answer. And then one day, after unraveling enough of it, I looked over and I'm like, wait, that's not who I am. Right? I am conscious awareness on, you know, experiencing life through this human experience. But what I love about it is that if this is available to everyone, this is really the journey, but we get so caught up in day-to-day living and in what we're supposed to do. So you talked about letting go. You talked about surrendering. And people talk about that a lot, but what does that really mean?
there is, you can say surrender and you can embody surrender. And like in Buddhism, they talk about, like, they teach you to bow to everything. And I read a book about a guy who I think was a monk for about 20 years, and he wrote a book. It's called After the Ecstasy, the Laundry. So it's like, right before, like, chop wood, collect water, awaken, chop wood, water. So, and in the first part of his book, it talks about how we as human beings and creatures are meant to bow to something greater than ourselves, not as a form of like slavery and obedience, but as co-creators. So, yeah. So I was surrendering the control of my ego over where I thought I should be going in life, the way I thought that I should be feeling. And I relinquished that control like, you know, someone on their deathbed, like begging for 5 more minutes or something like that. It was painful, and then it was blissful.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I love the way you explain that, because really, unless you really work on awakening here, it is your deathbed where you have to let everything go, you know, and it's that I've been reading the Cliff Notes to A Course in Miracles. There's a book called Accept This Gift. It's a beautiful set of Cliff Notes. And it talks about forget everything you know about this earth and who you are, because you don't know. And our mind is so powerful. Our mind creates our world. It's so powerful. And it's how we get caught in it. But a mind that serves spirit or serves the higher power or universe is always joyful and blissful. This is life's, God, Buddha's way of experience, of self-expression. Humanity is, right? And so if we can actually just really, you know, in Zen Buddhism, it's just stop thinking, just serve the present moment every day. That's all as human. If we do that, then it all kind of opens up to us, right? Yeah, I've really been working on that. It's been, and God, these conferences have helped me with that, trying to get up in front of students with an open heart. And when I do open my heart and talk to them, I see their eyes light up. I feel that connection to that heart chakra, but I can also immediately tell when I'm in my head, in the ego, and it just turns them off. The energy is just completely different. So it's a choice, right?
My ego gets so excited. So I also love, like, the Buddhist terminology of you purify your disposition, because in, like, a lot of, I call it the new age. It's the repackage stuff that, you know, everybody kind of goes through. There are a lot of good things, but still there's a lot of things that kind of keep you, like, trapped in a cycle is what I think. And the big thing, it's like, oh, I had an ego death, and now I don't have an ego anymore. And I'm like, your ego put on a scarf and smells
That's
like...
That's exactly right. If you're saying I don't have an ego anymore, then that's your ego talking.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like, your ego is good. It is there to protect you. So, like, my ego, if I don't ground myself, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. Please listen to everything I have to say. I only have a little bit to do, and we only have 30 minutes, and I'll just go off like a fire hose super fast. And, like, I'll do some interviews where I'm like, oh, I think I did really good. And I'll go back and I'm like, oh, I cut the interviewer off 4 times. Oh, so, like, it's a constant, like, non-judgment that you need to be in yourself, but still okay with being open to constructive criticism from yourself and then from others. But I mean, it's a balance and it's a dance for me, because, like, I'm coming out into the world as what I call, like, a grassroots person. If I didn't awaken, we wouldn't even be here right now. My podcast wouldn't exist. Right. You know, I'm sure you would have a great show, but I know that I wouldn't be here. So I love coming and speaking, because I'm like, listen, I had stage fright. It was bad. It would haunt me in my dreams. I wanted to sing. I wanted to have a band. I wanted to write books. I wanted to do all this. And I was terrified of the artist in me and the power and, like, the grief and the way that I'd like to write. Because a lot of my writing is, like, deep and twisted. It's like dredging the subconscious, you know, the things that you don't tell people. And then when, like, scientifically speaking, right, like, you think of the hemispheres of your brain, the left one is the masculine and the right one is the feminine. And when we're programmed through life I found out that the left brain audits stuff and decides what goes to the right brain and what doesn't. So I think that's why I like smoking pot so much in my younger days, because it would relax the
That's
left
right.
lobe, and then it would like let this little hippie come out and be
Right.
like, ooh, maybe I will go write a poem, all of that. So when I got like woken up to a lot of like femininity in it, and not like feminist, like the balance of the feminine coming back in and like doing this beautiful dance with the masculine, I was reconnected with my art. And that is what really like brought me back to life in a sense, is like all of these things that I left behind to go chase the world and seek outer validation and jobs and all of that. I mean, I had to throw a match on it. There's no way that I could stay. And
Right.
I
Well,
know
it's really that.
story.
Yeah. It's that fear that's the ego, right? It's that fear that holds you back. And so it's really a letting go, I think, for me. And you said, there's things that keeps us trapped, but things keep showing up because ultimately they're showing us what we need to do to set ourselves free, right? And you've covered a lot of things, from Buddhism to Kundalini to right and left hemispheres, and all of those things are all pointing us back. We are on a trajectory, whether we know it or not. We are on a trajectory back to that connection, that wholeness with each other, with the world. There's only one mind, right? And within your mind, the universe exists, right? And so if to think the ego to think that we can control the world, this little separate Holly, when it's so amazingly powerful that we're just like a receiver experiencing it, it's like, come on. So anyone out there who really wants to explore and find that expansiveness, it's already there, right? We just clump it up in a little ball called Holly and Cheyenne until we don't, right?
Those are so many good points. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I even rebuttal as fast as I can? It is wonderful. I think about the pitfalls that you get to go through on your journey, and how a lot of people almost feel like they don't want to talk about those, because I've had plenty of them on my journey.
Me too.
And I've gotten to the point where I was like, I don't even want to do human 3D stuff anymore. I hate the bills. I hate the challenges of my marriage. I'm not liking the challenges of, like, I just want to be me. And I got so tired of anything, even if it was for my benefit and like letting, my human self grow and evolve. I got to a point where I was like, it was toxically not serving me, because I would almost bypass things where I was like, I literally don't want to do this. This is going to, piss me off to do this. And I don't want to be mad. I'm tired of being mad. I just want to experience happiness for a little bit longer. And that's like a fun circle to be in. Like,
yeah, it is.
I have the awareness, but like I would get my notebook out and I would be like, dear future Cheyenne, I don't know what you're doing right now, but here's where I'm at. I'm struggling to move past this. If you could just write me back, I would really appreciate it, because
I love that.
I want to be human right now. I didn't want to vibrate off the planet and find 5D and go talk to aliens. I had finally found peace inside, right? And you feel that for the first time, and you're like, am I going to have to go live in an ashram the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Do I have to leave the United States? What the hell is going on inside of me? I didn't want to be one of those people that's like, I'm going to go be a guru and sell all of my stuff and like forfeit materialism. Because if we're all here to be like light in a sense, then we all have to like band together and be together. But it is a part of the journey. I just know it's not a part of my journey to go and hide, on a mountaintop the rest of my life and be like, this is my piece and I'm not going to share it with anybody else.
Exactly. And I don't think that you have to, right? It's about learning to live with your day-to-day life, but also to be in awareness, right? To live your life in awareness. And definitely it's about, especially right now with climate change and divisiveness going on in this country. You will never be totally at peace until everyone is at peace, right? Once you awaken, it's really kind of your light, your job or whatever, to shine that light. And I've had people talk about this bliss, and I've just certainly felt this bliss. And even people like Eckhart Tolle said, I don't even feel this bliss anymore, right? I feel the peace, right? It's just, maybe I'm used to it. Maybe I'm familiar with it now, but it's there. But it's the joy is learning to live in awareness day by day and be able to be on talks like this. And so that to tell others that this is who you are and this is totally possible for you. So yeah, let's not go, sometimes when I'm at those conferences, like I'm going to go home and I'm going to lie in my bed all day.
Yes.
But it's a balance, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy being human, right? And I believe that we all come from the singularity. A lovely woman said, we're all just the individual expressions of the all. That's where our free will and our ego come into play.
Yep.
But just the glass of water thing, you scoop up a glass of water from the ocean. Here it is, toss it back in the ocean. What's it look like?
Speaking to the choir.
I'm a believer in that. And because I have that belief, I love everybody, even if you hate me. Even if you want to direct that towards me. And I'm not being I'm so good at turning the cheek. Because, I love integrating a dark feminine. I love the light and the dark coming together. I'm not a fawn in the forest, but I do have much better emotional regulation than I ever did in my younger years.
Yeah.
But all of the division to me, yes, I still have things that I'm passionate on talking about, but the higher mind that you can really get into when you just center yourself and have the right perspective, it's just we've been told that all of these things are going to happen, that all of this upheaval is going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether
it ebbs and flows, right?
Old prophecies, new prophecies, all of this stuff. If Nostradamus is right, if the age of Aquarius is right, whatever you kind of want to believe, that there's a crazy upheaval, and every artist from the beginning of time has been saying the same thing. And the Beatles wrote a really good song about it, and they said, all you need is love.
That's right.
That's right. Because the world's so dark, but I think since the world is so used to conditional love, that when you tap into that peace and that bliss and knowing yourself, you understand unconditional love from a perspective that nobody could go find it except for you on your journey.
That's right. And everyone has it.
Yeah, you find it and you have conversations like this where you're you get it.
Right.
You get it.
It's right, right? Yeah, I know.
You got it, right? Okay, yeah, I see it in your eyes. The mirror reflection, the clearing out almost. And that's not to say that I still don't have work to do, but
we all do.
Get it. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, and I think that's the message. I mean, there's a million. I recognize in this 20 to 30 minute podcast that you and I could talk. We have 4 or 5 episodes, and so certainly you're going to have to come back. But the point is that unconditional love, it's not a journey of time. It's a journey of acceptance. It's there. I had a friend pass away lately in the last month, 5 weeks ago, and at the very end, he had a near-death experience. I mean, this guy is nuts and bolts. This guy is, this is it. And he had this near-death experience, and he came back and he told his wife, oh my God, there is so much more. So if you're listening out there, that so much more is out there for you right now. It's not even out there for you. It's in here for you, just to accept and basically to let go of everything that you think or believe, or that there's good or bad, or who you think you are, who you think life is, God is, and just listen, be still and listen. So Cheyenne, you have your own podcast. Well, I want you to talk about that in a minute, but I usually ask my guests, if there's someone out there going, I want that for myself, for my world, what's your kind of nugget that they can take away?
Nugget. Okay.
Millions of nuggets you got. I know.
These nuggets. So I love to tell my beginning story because I like people to understand the skepticism that we all come from when we're trying to like believe new things. So bridging a little bit of spirit and science has always really helped me to then trust intuition, like moving forward. So how you say like your friend had a near-death experience, he had direct experience with beyond what we can see in our everyday life. And he came back and like he's changed now because of that experience. If you obviously don't need to have a near-death experience to believe that there's more going on, all you have to do, I'm pretty sure the percentage is like 0.00035% is all we can see of the actual reality around us.
Yeah.
So if you just put your hands in front of you and you go, what's that? What is that? I can't see that with my eyes. But there's a whole visible light spectrum that you can just Google, and it'll go, humans see this much, and then all of this is going on all the time, and we can't pick that up. That is enough for me to go, okay, I'm safe to go out here and explore this more.
Wait a minute. There might be something.
You have these like little epiphanies. And again, it's a resonance in your body. So like, build a relationship with your body. You need this thing.
It is. Your body either keeps you, sorry to interrupt, but it either keeps you
excited. Feel free to cut me off at any time.
It either keeps you stuck in your anxiety or your fear, or it opens you up. It is really the barometer, right, to tell you kind of where you're at. So your tip is then just, maybe just believe, just put aside your conditioning and have this kind of this release of skepticism and believe there's something more and want it and intend to find it.
Yeah. And you know that you're suffering. We're all suffering in some capacity, even if I consider myself awakened, which is still really hard for me to, like, I don't say it at the grocery store. I say it on the interviews so you can like Google it and go check it out for yourself.
Right.
I still suffer. I just have a Mary Poppins bag of tools for myself. I'm not sitting in a cave anymore going, well, who put me in here? Me. Got it. Okay, I'm the problem. I'm going to go figure it out. It wasn't what was done to me. And hey, what happened to me was not my fault. But my healing is my responsibility.
That's right. I love that.
I'm honored that I am able to do that because I have a very dark past. I have a book that I will publish in the next couple years when I can finally get through the worst chapters of my life.
Same.
It's so hard to write this stuff down because you meeting me and then I'll be like, hey, Holly, here's this book about the last 34 years of my life. You're going to be like, what? Who is 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 Cheyenne? Like, that poor girl.
Right.
You know? We all have that story, but I wanna be like, hey, it can get really dark, and it can also get really light.
It can. And they're actually now recognizing the quarter life crisis that happen in people's late 20s and early 30s because we go down this dark road. We make decisions from this chaos, and then we go, what the hell happened? But anyways, I don't want to. I know we have millions of things to talk about, but tell us about your podcast and how they can get a hold of you, or if they want to know more.
Yes, for you, my friends that I don't know yet, that I love as far as unconditionally. I made a podcast where I documented not only what I was going through, what I was learning, but I also interviewed so many other people in the world doing amazing things. It's called Safe Space with Cheyenne. I get to not only showcase music that I love at the end, modalities that I've learned, and people that I've met along the way. There's about 91 episodes, and I have a ton of more stuff coming out in the next couple months. On top of that, I am a writer, so I like to make little guiding ebooks about things that I found. I have one that's published now. It's called Self-Love 101, How to Look in the Mirror. Super short. It's about 18, 19 pages of like direct, no fluff information. Like, I still read it for myself and update it. And then I just recently finished one called Grieving the Old Self 101, How to Integrate the New You. For about the past 2 years, I've been grieving old relationships, old versions of me, old vices that really just really wanted to stick with me. And anytime I learn like a really big lesson, I get a tattoo and then I write it down for my future self so I don't forget. And then I decided, I should probably put this out in the world because I want to be I am a writer, and that's like my gift. I want to be like, here's my human experience. This is what I've learned. If it works for you, yes, I wrote it for you. If it's not for you, plenty of other people out there for you, babe.
Yeah, no, that's right. It sounds amazing, and you're right. It will resonate with some people, and whatever. And so I'm hoping that this episode resonates with some of you listeners out there, because it's an amazing journey. It's a beautiful part of being here. It doesn't have to be one or the other, as you said, right? You can get married, have kids, do your life, but yeah, and still kind of awaken to this beautiful world that we're in. And I get, as you said, that there's dark times, but take this journey. So thank you so much, Cheyenne. Like I said, I met her early on in my kind of podcast guesting life. Beautiful soul, light.
I feel the same.
Yeah. So thank you. And I hope to have you back on again. Thank you for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this beautiful awakening, lightning episode of Pay Attention. What I love is that everything, as Cheyenne talked about, science, Buddhism, spirituality, they're all pointing back to the amazing, expansive self that you are. So I will see you at another episode of Pay Attention. Namaste.